Finding purpose after retirement. When I retired at 65, I thought I knew what was waiting for me. People had always told me that retirement was freedom, the golden years when you could finally slow down, rest, and enjoy the fruits of a lifetime of work. For the first few weeks, that was true. I slept in, lingered over my morning coffee, and even played a few rounds of golf with friends. It felt like a long vacation, and I told myself, this is the life I've been waiting for. But soon, the novelty faded. The mornings began to stretch into long afternoons, and the afternoons melted into evenings that felt all too quiet. The television became background noise, a companion that did little to fill the silence. Without deadlines, meetings, or colleagues depending on me, I began to feel restless. Something was missing. I had spent more than 40 years as an accountant. It wasn't glamorous work, but it gave me structure and purpose. Every day I knew exactly what I was supposed to do. I had clients who trusted me, problems to solve, and a role that mattered. When I walked away from it all, I also walked away from that sense of being needed. Now, with the days wide open, I started asking myself a question that haunted me: who am I without my work? One evening, my wife Carol noticed the heaviness in me. We were sitting at the dinner table when she looked at me with concern and asked, "What's wrong?" I hesitated, embarrassed to admit how lost I felt, but the words tumbled out anyway. "I don't feel useful anymore, nobody needs me, I don't know what to do with myself." Carol reached across the table and took my hand. Her voice was gentle but steady. "You're more than your job, John, maybe this is your chance to discover that." Her words lingered with me. I didn't know what they meant at the time, but they planted a seed. A week later, I got a phone call from an old colleague. He had started teaching financial literacy at the local community center and wondered if I could stop by to talk with the group. My first instinct was to decline. Who would want to hear from a retired accountant? What could I possibly offer that would matter to anyone? But something inside nudged me to say yes. When I walked into that classroom, 20 young people looked up at me with curiosity. They weren't clients or coworkers, they were students eager to learn something useful for their lives. I began with the basics: how to budget, how to save, how to stay out of debt. At first my voice trembled, but soon hands shot up. Questions poured in. How do I save for a house? Should I pay off my student loans first? How much should I put into retirement savings? The energy in the room was electric. For the first time in months, I felt alive. At the end of the session, one young man came up to me and said, "Nobody ever explained this to me before, you made it simple." His gratitude lit a spark in me I hadn't felt in years. I returned the next week, then the next. Before long, I was volunteering every Tuesday, not just teaching finance but also helping with resumes, mock interviews, and even basic computer skills. Each week, I walked into that community center with purpose, and each week I walked out with joy. The young people reminded me of my younger self, full of dreams and questions, standing on the edge of the future. They gave me energy, and in return, I gave them guidance. Carol noticed the change in me too. One morning she smiled and said, "You've got your spark back." She was right. Not long after, Carol made another suggestion: "Why don't you write down some of your stories?" At first I laughed. I had always been a numbers man, not a storyteller, but I gave it a try. I began writing about the lessons I had learned throughout my career, the mistakes, the victories, the little bits of wisdom hidden in everyday work. When I shared a few of these pieces with my students, to my surprise, they loved them. "Mr. John, you should publish these," one of them told me. So I started a blog. At first, only a handful of readers found it. Then dozens, then hundreds. Retirees began writing to me saying, "Your words reflect exactly how I feel." Young people sent me messages thanking me for making complicated ideas easy to understand. What started as a private exercise had become something bigger, a way to connect, to encourage, and to pass on what I had learned. 5 years have passed since the day I left my office for the last time. Back then, I thought I was walking into emptiness. Now I realize I was walking into a new chapter. Retirement didn't take away my purpose, it expanded it. I am no longer only John the accountant. I am John the mentor, John the storyteller, John the husband who rediscovers life alongside his wife. In some ways, I am also John the student, still learning from those around me, still growing in unexpected directions. And through it all, I have learned a few truths I wish someone had told me earlier. You are more than your career. The title on your business card doesn't define who you are. Purpose doesn't retire when you do, it evolves. Sometimes one small step like volunteering can open doors you never imagined. And above all, connection matters. Sharing what you know, listening to others, being part of a community, that's where real joy is found. Retirement is not an ending, it is a blank page, and each of us gets to decide what story we will write next. As for me, I am still writing mine, and I believe this chapter may be the most meaningful one yet.